If you receive SNAP benefits, also known as food stamps, there are two major changes happening right now in March 2026 that could directly affect how much money you receive and what you are allowed to buy with your benefits. These changes are hitting at a time when many Americans are already struggling with economic uncertainty, and if you are not aware of what is happening, you could find yourself cut off from benefits you depend on to put food on the table. This affects millions of seniors and disabled Americans who receive both Social Security and SNAP benefits. So you need to understand exactly what is changing and how it impacts you. Before I break all of this down, if you are not subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. We cover Social Security news and updates every single week, including changes to programs that affect your overall financial picture like SNAP. You cannot afford to miss information like this. Now, let me explain exactly what is happening with your food stamp benefits. The first few months of 2026 have shown that the economic uncertainty from late last year is not going away anytime soon. When it comes to government assistance programs, a wave of new implementations resulting from factors like President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act and general budget cuts are impacting many Americans' wallets. Some of the biggest changes are hitting the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which most people still refer to as food stamps. If you rely on SNAP to help cover your grocery costs, and millions of Americans do, you need to know what is changing this month. Let me first explain how your March 2026 SNAP benefit amount is calculated, because understanding this formula helps you know what to expect each month. Your SNAP benefit is calculated by subtracting 30% of your household's net income from the maximum monthly allotment for your household size. The cost of living adjustment that took effect on October 1st, 2025 for fiscal year 2026 increased these maximum amounts to account for inflation. The core formula remains the same. You take the maximum allotment for your household size, subtract 30% of your net income, and that equals your benefit amount. The actual maximum allotments for 2026 are higher than they were last year. For a single-person household, the maximum is now $292 per month. For a family of four, the maximum is $939 per month. These numbers represent the most you can receive if you have zero net income. Most households receive less than the maximum because they have some income that reduces their benefit amount, but understanding these maximums helps you know the upper limit of what you could potentially receive. Now let me get into the first major change that is affecting SNAP recipients this month. This involves state-level policy changes that are taking effect right now across the country. Every state is now being held to a strict requirement to reduce SNAP error rates to 6% over the next year. If states fail to meet this target, they face losing federal funding that supports the program. This means states are cracking down on eligibility verification and program accuracy in ways that could affect your benefits. One of the biggest moves involves states like New York implementing stricter rules for what are called able-bodied adults without dependents, commonly referred to as ABOWDs. This all goes back to the One Big Beautiful Bill Act ending pandemic-era boosts and setting new work requirements. During the pandemic, many of the work requirements for SNAP were waived or relaxed to help people who lost jobs or faced economic hardship. Those pandemic-era flexibilities are now ending, and the original rules are being reinstated and in some cases made even stricter. The second major change involves new restrictions on what you can actually purchase with your SNAP benefits. Several states are now phasing in food restriction waivers that limit what SNAP recipients can buy with their EBT cards. Texas has enacted bans on sugary drinks, candy, and other items deemed to be junk food. States that have received approved waivers from the federal government have started prohibiting SNAP recipients from using their electronic benefit transfer cards to buy anything classified as unhealthy. Here is where this gets complicated and potentially confusing. Now that these rules vary by state, it is up to your local government to decide what gets labeled as junk food. These classifications are based on factors like how much sugar a product contains, how much fat it has, and its overall nutritional value. What might be allowed in one state could be banned in another state. This creates a patchwork of different rules depending on where you live. The main states with changes either already in effect or on the way include Arkansas, Colorado, Florida, Hawaii, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, and West Virginia. If you live in any of these states and you receive SNAP benefits, you need to be aware that the rules about what you can purchase may be changing or may have already changed. When you go to the grocery store and try to use your EBT card, items that you were previously able to buy might now be declined at the register. This can be frustrating and embarrassing, especially if you are not expecting it. I would strongly encourage anyone receiving SNAP benefits in these states to check with your local SNAP office or visit your state's benefits website to understand exactly what items are now restricted. You do not want to find out at the checkout line that half the items in your cart are no longer eligible for purchase with your benefits. New household verification terms have also been introduced this month. Several changes are impacting the reporting requirements for SNAP, with a focus on more frequent reviews of your eligibility and expanded documentation requirements. Some states, like Virginia, are prioritizing household composition verification by March 2026 to manage program accuracy. What this means in practical terms is that you may be asked to provide documentation about who lives in your household, what your income is, and other eligibility factors more frequently than before. If you receive a request for information or documentation from your state SNAP office, do not ignore it. Failing to respond to verification requests can result in your benefits being reduced or terminated entirely. Keep copies of important documents like pay stubs, utility bills, lease agreements, and identification readily available so you can respond quickly if asked to verify your information. Being proactive about this can prevent gaps in your benefits. Now, let me explain the new work requirement rules because this is where many people are going to be significantly affected. These changes affecting your SNAP benefits are not just about restrictions on what food you can buy. They also come with more intensive work requirements for a lot of people who previously may have been exempt or subject to less stringent rules. The new federal SNAP rules have expanded work requirements to more adults between the ages of 18 and 64. Under the new rules, these adults must now work or participate in approved training programs for 80 hours per month or more to continue receiving benefits beyond 3 months within a 3-year period. This is the ABA-D time limit that has existed in various forms for years, but the new rules are significantly expanding who it applies to. One of the most significant changes is raising the age limit for work requirements from 54 up to 64. Previously, adults over 54 were generally exempt from these work requirements. Now, adults up to age 64 must meet the work or training requirements to continue receiving SNAP benefits. This affects a large number of older Americans who may have been receiving SNAP without having to meet work requirements. The new rules have also removed exemptions that previously protected certain vulnerable populations. Veterans are no longer automatically exempt from work requirements. Homeless individuals are no longer automatically exempt. Foster youth aging out of the system are no longer automatically exempt. These groups will now need to meet the same work or training requirements as other adults to maintain their SNAP benefits beyond the 3-month limit. Additionally, the new rules are limiting state waivers for high unemployment areas. Previously, states could request waivers from work requirements for areas with high unemployment rates, recognizing that people in those areas might have difficulty finding work through no fault of their own. Those waiver options are now being significantly limited, which means more people in economically distressed areas will need to meet work requirements, even if jobs are scarce in their community. For many people living paycheck to paycheck, these changes put them in an even tougher spot. If you are already working but not quite 80 hours per month, you may need to find additional work hours to maintain your benefits. If you have barriers to employment like health issues, transportation problems, or caregiving responsibilities, you may struggle to meet the new requirements. Understanding what training programs qualify and how to document your work hours is going to be essential for staying enrolled in the program. I want to be clear about what this means for Social Security recipients specifically, because many of you watching this channel receive both Social Security and SNAP benefits. If you are receiving Social Security retirement benefits or Social Security disability insurance benefits, the work requirements may or may not apply to you, depending on your specific situation. Individuals receiving SSI or SSDI are often exempt from SNAP work requirements due to their disability status. However, if you are receiving early Social Security retirement benefits and are under 64, you may be subject to these new work requirements, depending on your state's rules. If you receive both Social Security and SNAP, and you are unsure whether the work requirements apply to you, contact your local SNAP office immediately to clarify your status. Do not assume you are exempt. Get confirmation in writing if possible so you have documentation if any questions arise later. The last thing you want is to have your benefits terminated because of a misunderstanding about your exemption status. For seniors and disabled individuals who rely on both programs, these changes add another layer of complexity to an already complicated benefits system. You may need to provide additional documentation about your disability status or age to maintain your exemption from work requirements. Some states are requiring more frequent recertification to verify that exemptions still apply. Stay on top of any notices you receive from your state benefits office and respond promptly to any requests for information. The combination of food purchase restrictions and expanded work requirements represents a significant shift in how the SNAP program operates. Whether you agree with these policy changes or not, the reality is that they are being implemented right now, and they will affect millions of Americans who depend on food assistance. Being informed about these changes is the first step to making sure you do not lose benefits you are entitled to receive. If you are currently receiving SNAP benefits, here is what I recommend you do. First, check with your state SNAP office or visit your state's benefits website to understand exactly what rules apply in your state. Second, review any notices you have received about recertification, verification requirements, or work requirements. Third, gather documentation about your household composition, income, and any exemptions you may qualify for. Fourth, if you are subject to work requirements, make sure you understand exactly what activities count and how to document your hours. Fifth, if you are a senior or disabled individual, verify that your exemption status is properly documented in your case file. The economic pressures facing American families are real, and programs like SNAP provide essential support for millions of people who are struggling to afford basic necessities like food. These changes may make it harder for some people to access or maintain their benefits, which is why being informed and proactive is so important. Do not wait until you have a problem with your benefits to figure out what the rules are. Take action now to make sure you understand your obligations and your rights under the new rules. If this information was helpful to you, make sure you are subscribed to this channel so you never miss important updates about Social Security and related benefit programs. Share this video with friends and family members who receive SNAP benefits, because many people have no idea these changes are happening until they suddenly lose their benefits or find out they cannot buy the groceries they planned on. The more informed people are, the better they can protect themselves and their families. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next update.